When Ryan opened the door that morning, he wasn't ready for what he saw. Standing before him was not a regular maid or an android helper. It was a being unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly silver under the soft light of Nova Station's dome, and her eyes, deep, calm, and almost liquid, held a strange warmth. She looked fragile and strong at the same time, like a living sculpture made of moonlight. "I am Lyra," she said softly, her voice smooth and clear. "I've been assigned to assist you by the Interspecies Domestic Service Program." Ryan just nodded. He wasn't much of a talker these days. Ever since his wife's death 2 years ago, silence had become his only companion. The house felt empty, the air always heavy. Even the hum of machines felt lonely. Hiring help wasn't his idea. It was his friend Kaylin's suggestion. "You need company, Ryan," he had said. "Someone to keep things in order, even if it's not human." So he agreed. But now, looking at Lyra, Ryan felt unsure. She was tall, graceful, and moved with a strange elegance, like every step was thought out, like she understood the rhythm of space itself. "Come in," he said finally. She walked in quietly, her eyes scanning the small home. The air recycler hummed gently, and dust clung to forgotten corners. Ryan felt embarrassed suddenly, realizing how unkempt things had become. Lyra placed her small silver bag on the table and turned toward him. "Would you like me to begin cleaning immediately?" He nodded. "Do what you think is best." And just like that, she began to work. For hours, Ryan sat at his workbench repairing small mechanical parts, while she moved around him like a soft wind. No sound of footsteps, no unnecessary words. She dusted, polished, organized, and even fixed the small light in the hallway that had flickered for weeks. When she finished, she stood silently by the door of his workshop. "Your home is peaceful," she said quietly. Ryan looked up, a bit surprised. "Peaceful?" "Yes," she said, her silver eyes meeting his. "But very lonely." The words made him pause. He looked away. "You can leave the comments out, just do your tasks." Lyra bowed her head slightly. "As you wish." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The house was spotless, the air crisp and clean, yet something felt different. Maybe it was because there was another presence in the house now, someone breathing, moving, existing. He heard faint sounds from the kitchen, gentle humming, the quiet rhythm of dishes being placed away. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and realized it had been months since anyone had spoken to him so softly. The next morning, Lyra greeted him with tea. "Good morning," she said, her voice light, almost hopeful. He muttered a short thanks and took the cup. She didn't seem offended by his coldness. Instead, she just smiled, a small, patient smile, and turned to clean the counter again. As the days passed, Ryan noticed strange things about her. She didn't eat the way humans did. Instead, she absorbed a glowing crystal substance that shimmered faintly blue. She didn't sleep much either, just stood by the window at night, watching the stars with quiet eyes. Sometimes, when he walked past her, he'd catch her gaze following him, like she wanted to say something but held herself back. Ryan told himself it was just her programming, maybe some kind of emotional mimicry designed to make her seem friendly. Still, it bothered him. How real it looked. One evening, as he sat fixing a piece of machinery, he heard her humming again. The tune was soft, slow, and somehow sad. He turned his head slightly and saw her sitting by the glass wall, the stars reflected in her silver eyes. Her expression wasn't robotic. It was human. That made his heart ache for reasons he didn't understand. He cleared his throat. "Where did you learn that song?" She looked over, startled. "It is an old melody from my homeworld," she said softly. "It is sung when we miss someone." Ryan froze. "Miss someone?" "Yes," she whispered, turning back to the stars. "When someone you cared for is gone, we sing to remind the stars they still exist somewhere." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet filled the space between them, soft, fragile, and heavy with unspoken things. Ryan didn't know why, but he whispered, "I think I understand that." Lyra turned her head slowly, her eyes gentle. "Then maybe you miss someone too." He looked away quickly. "Finish your tasks," he said, his voice low. "Yes, Ryan," she replied softly, but when she walked away, the song continued, sad, beautiful, and haunting, and for the first time in years, Ryan felt something stir deep in his chest. It wasn't joy. It wasn't pain. It was the quiet feeling of being seen. The following weeks passed quietly. The house looked brighter, cleaner, and more alive, but Ryan's heart remained unchanged. He worked long hours in his small workshop, fixing old machines for clients across Nova Station. He spoke little, kept to himself, and avoided any kind of closeness with the alien maid who now lived under his roof. Lyra, however, never stopped trying. Every morning she greeted him with a warm smile, her tone soft but steady. She would ask if he needed breakfast, if he slept well, or if he wanted her to tidy his workshop. Ryan's answers were always short: a no, a maybe later, or sometimes just silence. But Lyra never seemed discouraged. She moved through the house with quiet grace, singing sometimes under her breath. Her voice filled the empty air like gentle sunlight after a long winter. Ryan didn't want to admit it, but he liked that sound. It reminded him that someone else was there, that he wasn't completely alone anymore. Yet the more he noticed her, the more he built walls around himself. One evening, as he sat repairing a rusted drone, Lyra entered the workshop carrying a tray of food. "You've been working for 8 hours," she said softly. "Your body needs energy." He didn't look up. "I'll eat later." "You said that yesterday too," she replied, her voice calm but with a hint of worry. He frowned. "You're not my caretaker, Lyra. Just do your job and stop trying to manage my life." Her silver eyes flickered with emotion, sadness, maybe hurt, but she simply nodded and placed the tray down quietly. "As you wish, Ryan." After she left, guilt crept into his chest. He looked at the untouched meal, still warm, and sighed. He didn't mean to be cruel, he just didn't know how to be close to anyone anymore. That night, while walking through the dim hallway, he saw her again. Lyra stood by the large glass window, staring out at the stars. Her hands were clasped together, her expression soft but lonely. The faint blue glow of her skin reflected in the glass, making her look almost transparent, like she could vanish at any moment. Ryan wanted to say something, anything, but his voice failed him. He turned away, pretending not to notice. Yet as he lay in bed later, her quiet figure stayed in his mind. He wondered if she had someone she missed too. Did aliens even feel the same way humans did? Did they understand loss, grief, love? He didn't know. The next morning, Lyra was quieter than usual. No humming, no soft questions, just silence. She moved like a shadow, doing her work perfectly but without her usual warmth. Ryan tried not to notice, but the quiet felt heavy, almost unbearable. At lunch, he found a small bowl of soup waiting for him on the table. The aroma was gentle and familiar, human food. His wife used to make something similar. He froze. "Did you make this?" he asked when Lyra appeared from the other room. She nodded. "I learned from the station's archive." "I thought you might like it." Ryan stared at the bowl, then at her. "You didn't have to." "I know," she said softly, her gaze dropping to the floor. "But I wanted to." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ryan felt something inside him tremble again, the same strange feeling from before. When he finally tasted the soup, the flavor hit him like a wave of memories. Warmth spread through his chest, mixed with pain. He put the spoon down slowly. "It's good." Lyra's face brightened slightly, a small, genuine smile forming on her lips. "I'm glad you like it." That evening, Ryan found her in the garden area, watering the small alien plants she had brought with her. Their leaves shimmered faintly blue in the dim light. He stood at the doorway, watching her for a long time. "Those plants," he said quietly. "They're not from here, are they?" She turned, surprised. "No, they're from my world, Zephyra. They only bloom when they feel peace around them." He looked at her, then at the glowing plants. "And do they feel peace here?" She hesitated, her smile fading. "They're trying," she said softly. "Just like me." Ryan didn't know what to say. He wanted to respond, to ask what she meant, but the words stuck in his throat. That night, when Lyra's light footsteps faded down the hall, Ryan sat alone at his desk. Thinking about her words, she was trying to connect, trying to belong, trying to be seen, and all he had given her was distance. He rubbed his face tiredly and whispered to himself, "You really don't know how to live anymore, do you?" Outside, the stars shone brighter than usual, and through the quiet walls of his home, Ryan could faintly hear her singing again. The melody was soft and sad, but this time it wasn't just hers. He felt it too. The next few days passed like quiet waves. Ryan noticed small things about Lyra now. the way her silver hair caught the light when she moved, how her humming always matched the rhythm of the machines in the workshop, and how she paused before speaking, as if choosing every word carefully. She didn't talk much anymore, and that silence bothered him more than he expected. He had grown used to her gentle voice filling the empty space. Now the house felt heavier again, like the walls were closing in. One evening, Rian came home later than usual. His clothes smelled of oil and dust, and his shoulders ached. He pushed open the door, expecting the same soft glow of light and quiet hum of music, but instead the air was thick with the smell of something burnt. He frowned and walked toward the kitchen. There he found Lyra kneeling on the floor beside a pot of blackened food, her trembling hands trying to clean the mess. The light from the stove flickered weakly, casting a faint blue glow across her face. "Lyra?" Ryan said, his voice confused and concerned. "What happened?" She looked up quickly, her silver eyes wide with embarrassment. I was trying to cook something. Something human. I found a recipe in the archives. I wanted to surprise you." He stepped closer. "Surprise me? Why?" Her hands froze. She looked down again. "Because you never smile. You never talk much. I thought maybe, if I made something you liked, you might—" She stopped, unable to finish. Ryan's chest tightened. "You don't have to do that," he said softly. "It's not your job to make me happy." Lyra's voice broke when she replied. "I know it's not my job, Ryan, but I wanted to. You never look at me. You never see me." Those words struck him harder than any blow. He stood frozen, not knowing what to say. The pain in her tone was so raw, so honest, that he could almost feel it echoing his own loneliness. "I didn't mean to ignore you," he managed to whisper. She shook her head quickly, trying to smile, but her voice trembled. "You didn't have to mean it. I just wanted to matter, even a little." For a moment, silence filled the kitchen. The only sound was the low hum of the lights and the faint hiss of the cooling stove. Rian looked at her, the alien who had come into his quiet, broken life, and saw not a maid, not a worker, but a person who felt, who cared, who tried. He had been blind to that. "Lyra," he said quietly, "you do matter." But she didn't look at him. She stood up slowly, her expression distant. "Please don't say that just to be kind." She turned and walked away before he could stop her. Rian stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the faint smell of burnt food and the echo of her words. His chest felt heavy, full of things he had never said. Later that night, he found her sitting in the small garden near the window. The silver plants she had brought from her world glowed faintly, and she sat among them staring at the stars. He hesitated at the doorway. "Lyra," he said softly. She turned, her eyes calm but tired. "Do you need something?" "No," he said. "I just wanted to talk." She tilted her head slightly. "You don't usually want that. I know." He took a breath. "You said earlier that I never see you. Maybe you're right. I haven't really looked at anyone since my wife died. It's easier not to." Lyra's expression softened, though sadness still lingered in her eyes. "Easier," she repeated quietly. "But not better." He nodded. "No, not better." The two of them sat there in silence for a while, the stars above glowing like soft lanterns. The air between them wasn't as heavy anymore. Something fragile had changed. After a few minutes, Lyra whispered, "On my world, we believe that silence between two beings isn't empty. It's full of what they can't say yet." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "That's a beautiful thought," she smiled faintly. "Maybe one day you'll fill our silence with words." He didn't know how to respond, so he just nodded. "Maybe." That night, when Ryan went to bed, he couldn't stop thinking about her words. "You never see me." He realized how true they were, not just for her, but for himself. He hadn't seen anything clearly since the day he lost the person he loved most. He had been walking through life half awake, and now, for the first time in years, someone was reaching out, gently, patiently, trying to wake him up. As he drifted into sleep, the faint hum of her song reached his ears again. It was soft, fragile, full of longing. This time, it didn't make him sad. It made him want to listen. The rain began without warning. Outside the glass dome of Nova Station, clouds of dark gas rolled across the artificial sky, and lightning flickered like veins of white fire. Inside the house, everything was quiet, except for the sound of the storm pressing against the walls. Rian sat in his workshop, trying to fix a broken drone, but his mind wasn't on his work. His thoughts kept wandering back to Lyra, her voice, her sadness, and the way she had said those words. You never see me. He had tried to ignore the memory, but it wouldn't leave him. For the past few days, things had changed between them. Lyra still did her duties, but she no longer hummed. She no longer asked questions or smiled when he entered the room. She moved with the same grace as always, but it felt mechanical now, empty, like a machine going through the motions. And Ryan hated it. He didn't understand why it bothered him so much, but the silence between them now felt colder than before. As thunder shook the glass panels above, Ryan sighed and stood up. He couldn't focus on anything. The storm outside seemed to echo the one inside his chest. He walked toward the living room, where the soft blue light of Lyra's energy shimmered faintly in the darkness. She was standing near the wide window, her hands pressed against the glass, watching the lightning dance across the sky. The glow from her skin flickered with each flash, making her look ethereal, almost unreal. Lyra, he said quietly. She didn't turn. Yes, Rian? He hesitated. You've been different lately. Her voice was calm but distant. I adjusted my behavior according to your comfort. You prefer silence. That's not what I meant, he said, taking a step closer. You don't have to change who you are just to make me comfortable. She turned her head slightly, her silver eyes reflecting the storm outside. But you never wanted who I am. Ryan froze. That's not true, isn't it? Her voice trembled now. You keep your distance. You look away when I speak. You act as if caring is something dangerous. I don't understand humans, but I understand pain. And yours. It never leaves this house, he swallowed hard. You don't know what you're talking about. Lyra shook her head. I know enough. My kind, we can feel emotions around us. The energy, the weight of it. Your sorrow burns like a constant storm. I've felt it since the day I arrived. He looked down, his jaw tight. It's not something I can turn off. I never asked you to, she whispered. But you never let anyone share it with you. You built walls, Ryan, and you locked yourself inside. Her words were soft, but they hit deep. He looked at her, really looked at her this time. The faint trembling in her voice. The sadness behind her steady gaze. The loneliness she tried to hide. He realized then that she wasn't just saying these things because she cared about him. She was saying them because she understood. For the first time in years, someone saw through the silence he had buried himself in. I lost someone, he said quietly, his voice breaking. 2 years ago. My wife, she was everything. Lyra's expression softened. I know, she said gently. I saw the photo on your desk. You still talk to it sometimes when you think no one is listening. Ryan blinked, surprised. You heard that? She nodded. I wasn't trying to. But your pain fills every corner of this house. It's heavy. The thunder outside roared again, shaking the glass. Lyra flinched slightly, her energy dimming. Ryan stepped closer. Does the storm bother you? She shook her head. No, it just feels familiar. Familiar. On my world, she said softly. Storms come when two hearts are in conflict. When they try to understand each other but can't. Maybe this one came for us. Her words made him pause. The wind howled, and for a moment, everything felt suspended in time, the storm, the silence. The fragile space between them. Ryan reached out slowly, his hand trembling. Lyra. She turned to face him, her eyes glowing faintly blue. I don't know how to be what you want me to be, he admitted, but I don't want you to stop being you. Her eyes softened, and for the first time in weeks, a faint smile touched her lips. Then maybe we can learn together. He nodded, unable to speak. The storm outside began to fade, the thunder rolling away like a sigh. They stood there in the dim light. Two lonely beings who had finally stopped pretending they were fine. When Lyra stepped closer, her silver glow brushed against his arm, warm and soft like starlight. The storm is quieter now, she whispered. Yeah, Ryan said, his voice low. Maybe it's finally listening. Outside, the rain eased into silence. Inside, something broken between them began to heal, slowly, quietly, like the first light after a long night. The next morning felt different. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed and quiet. Drops of rain still clung to the glass walls of the dome. and a soft golden light filtered through the clouds. For the first time in months, Ryan didn't wake up to emptiness. There was a strange calm in his chest, like something heavy had finally lifted. He walked into the kitchen and found Lyra standing near the window, tending to her glowing plants. The silver leaves shimmered under the sunlight. She turned when she sensed him there, her eyes gentle and bright. "Good morning," she said softly. Ryan hesitated for a second, then smiled faintly. "Good morning." It was the first time in a long time he'd said those words with real feeling. Lyra looked surprised for a moment, then smiled too, a real warm smile that made her face light up. The air between them felt different now, softer, easier. "Would you like breakfast?" she asked. He nodded. "Sure, and maybe I could help." Her eyes widened slightly. "Help?" He chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah. I think it's about time I did something around here besides fixing broken machines." She tilted her head, the faintest laugh escaping her lips. "Very well. But don't blame me if it doesn't turn out perfect." Together they cooked, a strange mix of human and alien recipes. Lyra showed him how her people extracted nutrients from small glowing crystals, and he showed her how to scramble eggs without burning them. The sight of Ryan trying to crack eggs with his awkward hands made her laugh again, and he realized how beautiful that sound was. For a long time, there had been no laughter in this house. Hearing it again felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. When they finally sat down to eat, Lyra watched him carefully. "How does it taste?" she asked. He smiled, pretending to think. "Not bad. Definitely better than my cooking." She laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." As they ate, Ryan noticed how comfortable it felt to talk to her. He found himself asking questions about her world, her people, her life before coming here. Lyra's eyes lit up as she spoke. She told him about Zephyra, her home planet, a world of twin moons and floating oceans. She described the great silver forests that glowed under the night sky, and the songs her people sang when they connected their emotions to one another. Ryan listened quietly, fascinated. "So your kind can feel what others feel?" She nodded. "Yes. When we bond deeply with someone, we can sense their emotions. It's not about control, it's about empathy. True connection. But here," her voice softened, "it's hard. Humans hide their emotions behind silence." Ryan looked down, his fingers brushing the cup of tea in his hands. "Maybe we hide them because we're scared of being hurt again." Lyra studied him quietly. "Pain means you lived through something that mattered. It means you cared." Her words stayed with him. They were simple but powerful. Later that day, they sat together in the small garden. The air smelled fresh after the rain, and the alien plants swayed gently in the breeze. Ryan leaned back on the chair, feeling oddly peaceful. "I used to sit like this with my wife," he said quietly. "We just watched the sky. We didn't even need to talk." Lyra's expression softened. "You loved her deeply." "I did," he said, his voice low. "And when she died, I felt like the world stopped moving. I thought if I kept everything quiet and clean, maybe it would hurt less." Lyra reached out slowly, her hand hovering near his. "Pain doesn't disappear in silence. It only sleeps there waiting." He looked at her hand, then at her face. "And what do I do instead?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You let someone see it." For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly he placed his hand over hers. Her skin was cool, soft, and faintly glowing. He felt a gentle pulse, like a heartbeat that wasn't his. "I think," he said softly, "I've been waiting for someone to do that." Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes shining. "Then maybe that's why I came here." They sat like that for a while, two souls quietly understanding each other, surrounded by the soft light of the garden. For the first time in years, Ryan didn't feel like a man stuck in the past. He felt alive, seen, heard. When night came, he stood by the window and looked at the stars. Lyra joined him, standing close enough that their shoulders brushed. "Your world must be beautiful," he said. "It is," she replied. "But beauty isn't about the place, it's about the heart that sees it." Ryan turned to her, meeting her gaze. "Then I guess I'm starting to see again." Lyra smiled, and for a moment it felt like the stars themselves leaned closer to listen. Days passed softly after that morning. The silence that once filled Ryan's house had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was calm, warm, alive. Lyra moved through the rooms like a quiet melody, her presence gentle but strong. Ryan had grown used to hearing her hum softly when she worked, her strange alien songs weaving through the air like light itself. He didn't fully understand what was happening between them. He only knew that every time she smiled, something inside him healed a little more. One evening, Ryan sat by the window repairing a small old communicator. The light from the setting sun touched the metal pieces, making them glow. Lyra came in quietly, holding a cup of warm herbal tea she'd made from her glowing plants. "You've been working all day," she said softly. "You should rest." He looked up, smiling faintly. "You sound like my wife used to." Lyra hesitated, then sat beside him. "Do you miss her still?" Ryan nodded slowly. "Every day, but now, it's different. The memories don't hurt the same way. Maybe because you remind me that life doesn't end with loss." Lyra's eyes shimmered faintly, her voice a whisper. "That's because loss is only one side of love. The other side is what stays." Ryan stared at her for a long moment. Her silver blue eyes glowed faintly in the soft light, and he realized that even though she was from another world, she understood the human heart better than most humans ever could. He placed the communicator down. "Lyra," he said quietly, "do you ever miss your home?" She looked away toward the window, where 2 small moons hung in the night sky. "Every day," she replied. "But I left because I wanted to understand something. My people say humans are unpredictable, emotional, beautiful, and broken at the same time. I wanted to see why." "And what did you find?" he asked. Her gaze met his again, glowing softly. "I found that humans hide light behind their scars, and sometimes they need someone to remind them it's still there." Ryan felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what to say. The room was silent except for the faint hum of her glowing plants and the distant rain outside. Then Lyra reached out. Her fingers brushed his hand, just a simple touch, but something strange happened. A soft pulse of light traveled from her skin into his. He gasped quietly, not from pain, but from the warmth that spread through him. It felt like comfort, like being seen from the inside out. "What was that?" he whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. "It's the bond." "I didn't mean to." "I'm sorry," he shook his head quickly. "No, it's okay, I felt something. Like you could see what I was feeling." Lyra nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "It's part of what we are. When we care deeply, our energy connects. I can sense your emotions, your memories, sometimes even your pain." He swallowed hard. "That sounds heavy." "It can be," she admitted. "But it also means I can share your burden. You don't have to carry everything alone." Something in her voice broke him open. For so long, Ryan had been holding everything inside. The grief, the loneliness, the guilt. He felt his chest tighten, tears rising before he could stop them. Lyra didn't say anything. She simply moved closer and placed her hand over his heart. The light pulsed again, soft, glowing, gentle. He felt his pain, his fear, his sadness, and then something else. He felt her warmth, her kindness, her love for life itself. It filled the empty space in him like sunlight. He couldn't stop the tears. For the first time in years, he let them fall. Lyra didn't look away. She didn't speak. She just stayed there, connected to him, her hand steady and glowing. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "Thank you." Lyra smiled faintly, tears glimmering in her own eyes. "No," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me in." The storm outside grew stronger, thunder echoing in the distance, but inside everything felt peaceful. Ryan's heart was still heavy, but it was no longer alone. That night, he didn't dream of loss. He dreamed of light, of floating in a sea of stars with Lyra beside him, her hand glowing in his, guiding him through the darkness. When he woke, the first thing he saw was her silhouette by the window, watching the dawn rise. She turned and smiled softly. "Good morning, Ryan." He smiled back. "Good morning, Lyra." And for the first time, he truly meant it. The bond between them wasn't something he could explain with science or logic. It was something deeper, something human, something that reached across worlds in pain and silence. And though he didn't say it out loud, he knew it now. She wasn't just his maid anymore. She was the light that had walked into his broken world and taught him how to see again. The days after their bond formed were like a new chapter in Ryan's life. The house that once felt like a cold, silent space had become alive again. There was laughter now, quiet but real. There was the smell of warm food, the soft hum of Lyra's alien songs, and the sound of Ryan talking again. Not to fill the silence, but because he wanted to. Lyra had become part of his every day. She helped him fix machines, shared her strange glowing recipes, and sat beside him when the nights grew long. Sometimes they talked about their worlds, other times they said nothing at all, just sat quietly, hearts understanding more than words could. But the peace did not last forever. One evening, as Ryan repaired the old communication terminal, a sudden alert flashed across the screen. A signal, foreign, coded, and unmistakably Zephyrian. Lyra froze the moment she saw it. Her eyes widened, the light within them flickering. "It's from my people," she whispered. Ryan looked at her, confused. "Your people? Why now?" Lyra hesitated. "They must have found me. I was not supposed to stay this long. Zephyrian law says emotional bonding with a human is forbidden." Ryan felt something cold spread through him. "Forbidden? Why?" She looked away. "Because our emotions are powerful. When we bond too deeply, it can change us. It can change you. The Council fears it could create instability." He took a step closer, his voice low. "Instability? Lyra, you didn't cause chaos. You gave me my life back," her voice trembled. "And that's why it's dangerous, Ryan, because I care too much now." The communicator beeped again, louder this time, demanding response. Lyra's hands shook. She turned off the signal quickly, the screen going dark, but she couldn't hide the fear in her eyes. Ryan took her hand. "You don't have to go back." Tears glimmered in her eyes, faint silver trails under the soft light. "If I stay, they will come. They will take me by force. I don't want that for you." He shook his head. "I've already lost someone I loved once. I can't lose you too." Lyra stepped closer, her voice breaking. "You don't understand our bond. It's not just emotional now. It's life-linked. If they remove me, the energy we share could destroy you." He stared at her in shock. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She smiled faintly, even through her tears. "We do what humans always do. We make it count while it lasts." The words hit him like a blade and a blessing at the same time. That night the storm returned. Wind howled around the dome, and lightning painted the sky in silver light. They sat together by the window, watching the chaos outside. Lyra rested her head against his shoulder, her skin faintly glowing with every breath. "Do you regret coming here?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "Never. I found something here I never knew existed. You humans. You love with such pain and beauty. I wanted to understand it, and now I do." He looked at her, his voice soft and trembling. "And what did you understand?" She lifted her eyes to meet his. "That love isn't about how long it lasts. It's about what it changes inside us." For a long time they said nothing. The rain kept falling, soft and endless, as if the sky itself mourned what was coming. When the Zephyrian ship finally arrived days later, it hovered above the valley, silent and bright like a second moon. Lyra stood by the door wearing the white cloak of her kind. Her eyes glowed with quiet sadness. Ryan stood beside her, his heart heavy. "There's no other way?" He asked one last time. She smiled gently. "There's always another way, Ryan, just not always in this world." She reached out and placed her palm against his chest. The glow spread between them again, soft and beautiful. "When you feel the wind move through the leaves, when you see the rain catch the light, remember me. Our bond doesn't end, it just changes form." Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "You gave me back my heart, Lyra." "And you gave me something I didn't know I was missing," she said. "Humanity." Her form began to fade into light as the transport beam surrounded her. She looked at him one last time, her eyes full of warmth and love. "Goodbye, Ryan." The light swallowed her and she was gone. Ryan stood alone for a long time, the room empty and quiet again. But this time it wasn't the same silence as before. It was full of her voice, her laughter, her warmth. It was full of life. He walked to the garden where her glowing plants still swayed in the night breeze. They shimmered softly and he smiled through his tears. He whispered into the wind, "I'll keep the light alive, Lyra, and somewhere beyond the stars, maybe on a silver forest world far away." A quiet, glowing heart smiled back.